Willie Rennie.
She cries to us. She's terrified of being alone. She's distraught and she's almost 94. Our hearts are breaking and Mum's spirit is broken. No one is saying the First Minister does not care about residents isolated from their families in care homes. So yesterday the Health Secretary said she was having more discussions tomorrow. But I'm sure the First Minister will understand my frustration that this is what she told me 2 weeks ago. More discussions will take more time, and time is precious for these people. When will families get to see their loved ones?
First Minister.
I do care, we all care deeply about this, and these are amongst in a whole series of tough decisions governments everywhere are having to take right now. These are probably the toughest, because on the one hand, I desperately want families of residents in care homes to have normal visiting. On the other hand, I desperately want to do everything we can to avoid the risk of COVID getting into care homes, because we know from our dreadful experience earlier in the year, the harm and the damage that does, and the toll that can take in terms of death. So we are treating these issues very carefully, and we are considering these issues very, very deeply. We do want to get back to a greater degree of normality. The Health Secretary has met with family representatives. We are acutely aware of the importance of visiting for health and well-being. There has been a process already underway which started in late June, if memory serves me correctly, which outlined a staged approach to the reintroduction of visits in care homes. That is underway, starting with outdoor visits, and now care homes are looking to reintroduce indoor visiting. And the restrictions that were announced for the population last week have not affected that. And in fact, part of the reason for putting these restrictions in place is to try to get the virus under control, so we don't have a situation where we're not able to proceed to greater flexibility around care home visiting. So these are difficult issues. They do take time because they need the best clinical consideration and advice, and we will continue to take these decisions with the greatest possible care, but also seek to do that in a way that enables families to have as much normality around their visits to, care of and interaction with their loved ones in care homes as possible.
Willie Rennie.
I do understand that these decisions are tough, but they won't get any easier if we keep on delaying those decisions. And that's what the families want. They want to see their loved ones. It's been months now, and they are desperate. And I know the First Minister understands that, but can I just urge her to try and move faster on this, because that's what the families need. The First Minister knows about the horrendous problems with the flu vaccine programme in Fife. Thousands of calls missed and tens of thousands of anxious and angry people. There's been traffic jams at flu centres in Edinburgh, and the NHS and the Borders has apologised for the problems there. This should be a warning to the Scottish Government for the rollout of the COVID vaccine. From school exams to university terms, the Scottish Government has not been great at hearing warnings and acting on them effectively. So if we are to get the COVID vaccine, we need to be ready. What is the First Minister doing now to make sure the rush this week with the flu does not turn into a stampede in a few months with any COVID vaccine? First Minister.
Can I firstly just return to the issue of care homes before I move on to issues of vaccine? And I absolutely take Willie Rennie's points about care home visiting in the spirit they're intended, and they are extremely legitimate points. I would simply say that delay, while none of us want to delay things unduly, on issues like this, we have to take care that we get these decisions right. And I would simply point out the fact that, unfortunately, we are again in a rising tide of COVID, where we are starting to see cases again in care homes, which we want to make sure that we have all of the appropriate protections in place so that we don't see a repeat of the experience in care homes that we had earlier in the year. So these are difficult decisions, and I'm not saying that just to excuse that we haven't got to the point Willie Rennie is asking me to get to. I'm simply underlining why it is so important to get those decisions right, and if unfortunately sometimes that means taking a bit of time over them, that is for the best possible reasons. On the flu vaccine, flu vaccine programme actually officially starts today, and I would encourage everybody who is eligible for the flu vaccine to take it up. We've seen in recent weeks scientific opinion about the particular dangers to people of getting COVID and flu together. So we should all be encouraging people to take up the flu vaccine. There have been some issues in certain health boards. Fife Health Board, for example, mentioned by Willie Rennie, has already increased the numbers of call handlers, the numbers of staff that are working on this, and measures have been put in place to ensure that the resources are there for everybody who comes forward for an appointment for the flu vaccine gets that. For people who perhaps are not aware of this, we are delivering the vaccine in a different way this year because of the risk of COVID in doing it in the way we normally do. On the related issue of a possible COVID vaccine, and I would dearly love to be in the position in a few months of being able to start rolling out a COVID vaccine. I genuinely don't know whether that will be possible. We already have a programme board looking at the practical issues around that. There are discussions with the UK Government around procurement, what the likely volumes are that would be available. We don't yet know who would be the priority groups, because we don't yet know what vaccine is likely to be approved first and who it is likely to be most effective in. But we are very plugged into all of these discussions, and we have that planning process already underway, so that as we do get more information, we can take those decisions in an orderly fashion. There is, I read an embargo copy last night, and I would encourage everybody to read it, a report published today, which is quite sobering. It's optimistic about the progress around vaccines, but also quite sobering. It's a report produced for the Royal Society, and sobering about some of the practical issues to get from here to actually starting to vaccinate large numbers of the population. But the Scottish Government is already, as I say, working through and thinking how we work through all these issues when more information becomes available.